So we've talked about a trend that has been tested multiple different countries in Europe. I believe Sweden and or maybe Norway and England about a 4-day work week, right? And so this has been tested. We also shared a story of a company, an agency, an ad agency, I believe was in Arizona, shared the story on this show where they tested it out for a while, an actual 4-day work week. And so this caught my eye when this popped up. Mondays being off for school kids. So a 4-day school week. Is this a thing? Apparently it is. Here's just a quick minute clip of a news story that I saw, and then I'm going to break this down from all angles. Let's roll the clip.
It's back to school for students in DeKalb, Texas.
Smile, baby.
But this year, they'll be spending only 4 days a week here instead of 5. The goal, to attract and retain teachers.
So you all are starting the year with no vacancies.
We actually filled all our positions before June, which is rare for us.
And challenging. Nationwide, there are 280,000 fewer public school teachers this year than before the pandemic. To attract educators, small rural districts across the country are shifting to a 4-day school week to compete with larger school systems that can often afford to pay teachers more.
So this is a chart.
Veteran teacher Laura Hunt was considering a new career until she heard about the shorter week.
I remember being a teacher and spending my Sundays lesson planning and grading papers, and it's more than just the school week. What will this change mean for your life?
I feel like it's buying me some of that family time back that used to be consumed with school tasks.
There you go. Okay, so this is fascinating. All right, let's just cover this right up front. You saw the superintendent there, Chris Fine, in the story. He calls it a new Sunday, right? And there's 900 students in Lathrop, Missouri. And this is a story that's separate from this Texas district. So I've got a story here from Missouri, and then you saw the news story there in Texas. So multiple districts are doing this. So of the 900 students in Lathrop, Missouri, none of them are going to school on Monday. And obviously this has attracted teachers. It's also reduced student absenteeism, and then there's the old saving some taxpayer dollars, right? Now, what's happening as a result of this is it can and does reduce class time. Chris Fine, the superintendent in this Missouri district, said students' days in the buildings are longer, and they don't have the half days and the snow days, so they're basically coming in. He said, so we were able to add hours of instructions to the school day, so they go to 4 days, but then they added the length of time kids are in the classroom. So basically 8 o'clock to 3:45. But let's talk about some other effects, and then I'm going to break this all down. The kids aren't having recess. They're not having as much free time. This is a problem. So, all right, let's just break this down. You go to 4 days a week. What are the good? The good is it's great for teachers. Gives teachers more time because teachers are overloaded as it is now. But is this the best solution? I don't know. I'm actually not going to endorse this one way or the other. I want to see it play out a little bit. I say bravo because you want to talk about innovative leadership. Let me at least applaud the superintendents that are doing this because they're being innovative and they're going, we got to do something. And the results are in as relates to teachers. Number one, they filled their positions faster than they ever have before in an industry where people are leaving. Because people are leaving. 280,000 less teachers employed this year than before the pandemic. So they go, okay, well, we filled our slots earlier. So teachers are like, yeah, I'm all in for 4 days a week. So that was a win. I think as it relates to the teachers' mental health and the ability to get more done in their personal lives and maybe even use more of that time, because sadly, they've not changed all the burden on the teachers. You didn't hear him go, well, we've also reduced the amount of stuff teachers have to do. So this is again, innovative, but it's not holistic. If you're going to do 4-day week, then also go, you know what? We're going to also reduce the amount of stuff the teachers have to do. We're going to roll our sleeves up and we're going to sit down as a school staff and professional educators and go, all right, how do we reduce the amount of grading time and lesson planning? If the issue is, well, we don't want to reduce that, then what do we reduce in order for them to have more time to grade and lesson plan during their day and not do it at home. This is not rocket science. I mean, I'm really trying. I'm trying to stay here today because I'm going to tell you all below the surface. When I start diving into stuff like this, just as a guy who's non-professionally trained to be an educator and a guy who doesn't even have a degree, but a guy who works in an entrepreneurial environment, who's been an entrepreneur his whole life, this pisses me off. This is not that hard to solve. But let me tell you the negatives. Because all this so far is positive for the teacher in that you give them an extra day off. But the fact remains that if you're still overwhelming them in the 4 days that they're there, I don't know that it helps them much. Now let's talk about the negatives for the students. Because I think this is a negative for the students because what they did was they said, well, we're going to reduce the amount of time in school to help our teachers and to attract teachers, but we got to get more lesson time in for the kids because they fell behind during the pandemic. The reason they fell behind during the pandemic is because everybody was doing homeschool, and everybody knows that homeschool only works with an actual homeschool program where the parents are very involved. Online lessons from the teachers didn't work because a lot of kids who fell behind didn't have the structure in the home to do it. So you can't just slap lessons on a Zoom link and expect it to work as well as in-room instruction. Come on, folks. Now, so what they're going to do. So now the school day's longer for the kids. So you reduce the amount of time for teachers, but you increase the amount of classroom time for the kids. Boo! Why? I talk to teachers. You know what teachers tell me? Kids need less time in the classroom, more time playing in recess, allowing their brains to recharge, getting that all-important physical and social activity. I've talked to teachers who go, kids don't need to be in the classroom more than 3 hours a day, period. So I applaud the innovation, but you're going to end up taking from kids the thing they need most in the day, which is social and physical activity. Kids are not wired to sit in a classroom and learn that long. If you don't believe me, go do research. Go read what great thinkers and people who've studied this will say. Child psychologists. I mean, this notion of this, I mean, it's become childcare. Public education is taxpayer-funded childcare. And this is the other issue on the 4-day week. It creates another problem, but it can be solved. Okay? So it's costing parents a fee for childcare on that Monday. And some parents are both working parents. So that's an additional cost. But again, through tax breaks, incentives, let's remove some public funds. This is solvable. So if the 4-day school week is good for the teachers, it ought to be good for the kids. And I'm here to tell you, as this stands, this model, yay for teachers, boo for kids. I don't think it's good for kids because even though kids are only in 4 days a week, they don't operate that way. They operate in the moment. Their kids aren't burned out, but you are holding kids in a setting and putting them in a process that they aren't wired for to be in the classroom from 8 a.m. to 3:45 with very little breaks. It's not good for kids. So what's good for the teacher ought to be good for the kids. And you ought to learn, you ought to sit there and go, what's the teaching process? What does it really need to be? What should it be? What could it be? And again, folks, this is never going to change if you, the people, if we, the people, don't demand change. We aren't preparing these kids well. We aren't allowing these kids to be the natural learners that they were created to be. There's no discovery here. It is a factory environment. Sit still. Be quiet. Listen. Try to memorize so you can do well on the test. That is not the essence of learning, which is about discovery and doing and more discovery and imagining. That's what learning is in every other area of life.